The film begins with three members of a Colombian gang driving a zip truck to a specific location. They were on their way to the crash site of a plane they had shot down earlier. Upon arrival, a man ordered two V&D to be placed in the middle of a wooden crate from the plane, while he checked the pilot's condition. As the man approaches the pilot, he realized it was a woman. This caught his attention. However, when he tried to touch her, the woman suddenly attacked him. She quickly defeated the second man. There was only one man left standing firmly. The person she was holding was pointing a gun at from behind. She ordered him to load the wooden crate onto the zip. After the wooden barrel has been stored, she shot and killed the rest of the gang members and drove the car's jeep away. Bring a wooden crate. The woman introduced was Dominique, an extremely skilled assassin from Ukraine. Her original destination was the United States, but while flying over Colombian airspace, her plane was shot down by gang members. Not long after, Dominique stopped in a secluded area and buried the wooden crate containing a weapon. She also set fire to the gang zip before continuing her journey on foot. In the evening, Dominique went to a bar in the area. A little later, a man named Julio approached her and started talking. Julio asks if Dominique is alone and what is she doing here? She replied that she was traveling alone and said that she was a tourist in between. In the conversation, Dominique Mini Julio helped her find an inn because she needed a place to rest. Julio explained that there are no inns or accommodations here, and even the nearest hospital is almost a 4-hour drive away. This shows that Dominique is in a remote village in Colombia. Last, Julio invites her to stay at his house overnight and promises to take her to the city the next morning. Dominique accepted and they went to his house together. Upon arrival, Dominique was intrigued by Julio and seduced him. Make them spend the night together. The next morning, Dominique asked Julio to take her to the city as promised. Nevertheless, Julio receives a call from his superiors. Asked him to go to a new crime scene immediately. Well, that's it. Julio is a veteran police officer. So, he apologizes to Dominique and explains that he has an urgent need to do something. At the same time, he invited her to stay at his house until he returned. What Dominique needs, she can visit the house next door, where his sister and father are. After Julio left, Dominique is warmly welcomed by Julia's older sister, Bolina, people who are pregnant. At this time, Paulina 10, Dominique went inside to have breakfast together. Bolina has 3 children, but her husband tragically died 4 months ago in an accident. Not only that, Julio's father was also present, but he was unable to walk and had to use a wheelchair. The footage shifts to the police force. The bodies of the 3 gang members Dominique killed earlier are being removed. Soon after, Julio arrives at the scene and is shocked to discover that one of the bodies is that of the gang boss's brother. People with great power in the village. It is revealed that the village is completely under the control of the gang boss, and many local police officers have been bribed or threatened to cooperate with him. That's why Julio begins investigating who is responsible for the deaths of 3 gang members. The next day, Julia was having breakfast with her family when Dominique joined after waking up. Julio immediately apologized for not being able to bring Dominique to the city as planned, explained that he has to handle a big case. Nevertheless, Dominique didn't mind much because she was comfortable with Julio's family. Question: Dominique asked Uliel about the case he was working on. He explained that it was a murder case involving 3 gang members. One of them is the younger brother of the local gang boss. Pretending not to know, Dominique simply wished him good luck in solving the case. Julio later shared that he personally did not care about the deaths of the 3 gang members because they are notorious troublemakers. Nevertheless, the problem was with his superiors. Chief of the police station. He is very loyal to the gang boss and is pressuring Julio to find the culprit as quickly as possible. It is revealed that Julio is the only policeman remaining honest in the village. And for a long time, he wanted to overthrow both the police chief and the gang boss, but has not been successful so far. Not long after, Julio receives a call from his superiors, asking him to go to the police station because he has arrested 2 suspects related to the murder case. Before leaving, Julio asked Dominique to wait for him to return, promised that when the case is over, he would take her to the city in the afternoon. Meanwhile, Paulina's eldest daughter, April, asked Dominique to stay a little longer because they were having a birthday party for her. Heard this that night. Dominique agreed to stay and decided to leave the next day. Then, the 2 suspects were detained and brutally tortured by the gang boss's right hand because they had become collateral for the murder case. Julio, present at the scene, felt very sorry for them, and it was difficult to witness the violence. Not long after, the chief of the police station came and took over the interrogation. The chief revealed that one of the 3 people killed was the brother of the gang boss. I heard that. The innocent suspects insisted they were just tourists and had nothing to do with the murder. But the chief did not believe them. As a result, he ordered his juniors to execute one of the suspects. It was clear that the chief of the post, the police were ruthless, and anyone who threatened his gang's business would be eliminated without hesitation. That night, the Unio family held a small party to celebrate Apple's birthday. At the same time, Julio was still in the house. Focus on something important. On a laptop, he is watching videos from hidden cameras that he has installed in the station chief's office. Reveal all the crimes committed by the chief of the station, including slandering 2 innocent suspects. It seems that Giulio has been secretly gathering evidence against the chief for a long time, with a plan to send this video to the central office in the city. The hope will lead to the arrest of both the outpost and the gang boss. Julia copied the video evidence to a USB stick and was about to meet her friend, who was a lawyer. He handed over the USB to his lawyer and asked him to transfer it to the central office so that the corruption of the chief and the gang boss could finally be exposed. Nevertheless, as soon as the USB was delivered, Giulio is ambushed and attacked. When traveling, she woke up. He found himself facing the chief of the fort, Luis Santiago. It turns out, the lawyer Giulio trusted was actually one of Luis's henchmen and deliberately trapped Giulio to win the favor of the chief of the station. Then, Luis couldn't believe that Giulio had the courage to betray him. Luis then demanded that Giulio submit the original of the video. Because he knew that the video that Mourinho gave to his lawyer was just a copy, Julio resolutely replied that he would rather die than surrender the original. The next morning, April and her siblings are woken up by Paulina's screams. It turns out, Paulina was confronted by the gang boss's right-hand man and a group of corrupt policemen when they brought Giulio's head. At the same time, Dominic, he hasn't left yet, witnessed the violence and can't stand still anymore. She immediately attacked the man, but unfortunately, one of the officers managed to escape before Dominic could catch him. Then, Dominic enters the house and gives Julio's head to his father. He could only cry, broken by the terrible death of his son. Meanwhile, the escaped policeman came to apologize to Luis, explain that they did not retrieve Julio's laptop. I heard that. He was in Julio's house. Stunned, Luis couldn't believe that nearly 10 of his henchmen had been defeated by a woman. As a result, Luis orders the rest of the people to block all roads, while he decides to go see this woman himself. At home, April asks who the real Dominicals are, because she easily defeated the corrupt cops. Dominic replied that it didn't matter. The important thing now is to find a way out of the village. Dominic is sure that the corrupt police force will come back and search Julio's laptop. What is now in her hands? Not long after, April informs Dominic that Luis is outside believing her. When they meet, Luis still finds it hard to believe that Dominic is the one who killed his minions. Luis then asks who Dominic really is and why is she in Julio's house. Dominic replied that she was just an ordinary person. We'll continue Julio's mission to expose the corruption of Luis and the gang boss. I heard that. Luis reveals that all roads in the area have been blocked, ensuring that Dominic will not be able to escape. That's why he asked the bride to hand over Julio's laptop before his junior kills her, Giulio's family. Dominic resolutely replied that she would rather fight to the death than shake her laptop. Shocked by her answer, Luis warned that he would be back in 2 hours with full force. After Luis left, Dominic turns inside and sees Paulina calling her friend for help. Unfortunately, her friend couldn't help because all the roads were blocked. Dominic joined the conversation and asked if there was a way out of the main road. Paulina's friend explained that there was only one path through a mountain trail. Her friend then promised to pick them up when they crossed the mountain. Last, Dominic asked Paulina's friend to get ready at the venue the next afternoon, because they planned to leave the village the next day. Not long after, Dominic explained to Junio's family that Luis's forces would be back in 2 hours. She asked Apple and her boyfriend. The person who stayed overnight helped set up traps around the house. Soon Dominic, along with Apple and her boyfriend, began to prepare traps in the surrounding area. Meanwhile, Luis was gathering all his remaining juniors, prepared to attack to retrieve the laptop containing evidence of his crime. Luis also requested aid from headquarters. It is said that Dominic's killed several policemen. Once the traps had been set up, Dominic tasked April with turning on the lights every time he received a signal over the radio. And Apple's boyfriend, Dominic asked him to hide in the bushes and sell any enemies that approach. Dominic then took Paulina into the bathroom for safety. She also asked Julio's father to hide in a secluded place, but he refused, insisted that he wanted to withdraw his dominances against Luis's forces. Not long after, reinforcements arrived from headquarters, and Luis quickly ordered his assistant to inform the new force before attacking the Domini. At the same time, Dominic is ready, hide next to a car, waiting for the arrival of Luis's forces. When Luis's army finally arrived, Dominic motioned for April to turn on the lights. The bright light stunned the attacker, and when the lights went out, their vision is still blurry, creating a perfect opportunity for Dominic to attack. She repeated this tactic several times, defeat a large number of enemies. At the same time, Paulina, people who've gone into labor, forced to give birth alone without assistance. The scene shifts to Luis's assistant. He realized that most of his soldiers have been killed by Dominic. He immediately ordered the second wave of attacks to come in. This time, some enemies have entered the house, while others try to sneak in from the side. However, Dominic, with the help of Giulio's father, quickly destroyed enemies in the house. Meanwhile, Apple's boyfriend, he was hiding in the bushes, knocked out enemies who tried to sneak in from the side. Now only Lewis's assistant and 3 of his soldiers remained. Know this, Lewis's assistant ordered the 3 soldiers to enter through the back door, while he fired a rocket into the living room. Fortunately, Dominic survived, although she was knocked out quite a distance. Then, she participated in a duel with Lewis's assistant. Initially, Dominic was almost defeated, but Julio's father intervened in time to help. On the other hand, 3 soldiers entered through the back door and found Paulina, and as they prepared to shoot her, Dominic appeared in time and took them down, saved Paulina and her newborn baby. After the battle, Paulina picked up the baby for Grandpa C. He laughed, obviously very happy, but unexpectedly, he breathed his last. It turns out, Julio's father was shot in the battle on the other side. April couldn't hold back her tears when she learned that her boyfriend had also died in battle. When dawn begins to appear, Dominic urged Paulina and her family to prepare to leave immediately, because they need to escape through the mountain road. At the same time, Lewis began to panic because none of his soldiers came back to report. A few hours later, Dominic leads Paulina, her children, and April crossed the mountain road. They were close to the meeting point where Paulina's friend would pick them up. The scene shifts to Lewis. He was cleaning up the bodies of his soldiers at the Julio house. Now, he had only 2 soldiers left, and neither of them took part in last night's attack on the Domini. Soon after, Lewis was approached by a woman, and that's the gang boss. He couldn't believe that all of Lewis's forces had been so easily defeated by just one woman like Domini. So, Lewis apologizes and explains that Dominic is no ordinary woman, but he promised to continue hunting for her, as well as Julio's family, because they may be escaping through the mountain road. Not only that, Lewis also plans to hire mercenaries to chase them down. 10 minutes later, Dominic and Julio's family arrived at Paulina's friend's rendezvous. Dominic quickly instructed Paulina to take her children, including Apple, get into the car, while she prepares to return to the village to hunt down Lewis. Just as Bolina and her children were getting into Paulina's friend's car, they were suddenly shot. It was an ambush by mercenaries hired by Lewis. React quickly April drive and try to escape the ambush, while Dominic stayed to confront the mercenaries. Last, Dominic has destroyed the mercenaries, while Apple has been driving in a safe direction. Nevertheless, just a few meters ahead, more mercenaries appear from the opposite side and flip Apple's car. They then climbed into the car and caused it to explode. Although Dominic is quite far away, she ran quickly towards the scene and opened fire on the mercenaries, despite destroying them. Dominic is heartbroken to discover that April and her family cannot survive. Painful, Dominic will hunt down Louise and the gang boss, wherever they are. A week later, news reports broadcast on TV revealed that Lewis had participated in many massacres and collaborated with the gang boss. All of Lewis's crimes were exposed thanks to the video evidence that Dominic provided to the authorities. Lewis is now recognized as one of the most wanted criminals. After hearing the news, Lewis sought refuge in the house of the gang boss. The next day, the scene reveals Lewis. The gang boss put all their juniors lying dead, and it was Dominic who easily knocked them down. The film ends with a moral lesson from the story. If you're going to shoot down a plane, make sure it's not driven by an assassin.